Welcome to the Lead Gen Hustler podcast. In this episode, we're excited to welcome Justin Rowe, a remarkable figure in the lead generation space. Justin's journey from founding Link and Learn, a LinkedIn lead generation agency, to its successful acquisition by Impactable, where he is now founder and CMO, highlights his proficiency in navigating the digital marketing sphere. And under his leadership, Link and Learn catered to over 1,000 clients, proving his ability to scale businesses effectively. And at Impactable, they're now one of the leaders in the space when it comes to LinkedIn ads. Justin, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. I've been following you around the internet for many, many years, and it's just awesome to be able to have you on. So thank you so much for joining me.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, let's get into it. So to kick off, I'd love you to be able to just introduce yourself to our listeners, tell the people what you're working on at Impactable a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, just the quick recap is that my name is Justin Rowe. I started with a LinkedIn lead generation agency called Link and Learn. I guess I started as a freelancer on Upwork into the lead generation agency, kind of became a full-fledged agency, LLC'd it, and grew to about 200 or so clients on the outreach side, which is a pretty big undertaking and hassle at that point. Went through an acquisition, made an exit, but and then stuck around with the agency to kind of grow and scale it post acquisition, and pivoted into a LinkedIn ads agency. And now Impactable is one of the larger LinkedIn ads agencies in North America, and we're kind of expanding to other services as well. But it's been kind of a wild ride, and definitely a big learning experience. Obviously, it was my first startup, and so it's just been a journey for sure.
No, that's insane. Crazy journey. And I'm excited to be able to get into it and break it down to show everyone how you got there. So to kick off, I want to just dive into going back to before Link and Learn, before Impactable. And I understand you were in the restaurant business. And I'd love to just hear what happened there. And then from what I understood, you went into the LinkedIn side to talk me through that, and then how you pivoted into freelancing and then moved into Link and Learn.
Yeah, I'd had my career in restaurants. My first job was at a Wendy's, or my first salaried job was at a Wendy's, making 24,000 a year. I kind of worked my way up through restaurants. I got a degree in business, and I just kept going with restaurants because that's where I had all my experience. But I was really looking for something else. I wasn't moving up as fast as I wanted. I wasn't making the kind of money that I thought was possible. And so I kind of discovered and stumbled onto LinkedIn, just as a kind of a way to see what else was out there. And I kind of adapted a weird approach to LinkedIn at the time, because this was, 5-6 years ago. I started growing my network kind of aggressively, sending 50 connection requests a day, filling my network with recruiters, HR managers, district managers, company owners, and kind of just started also posting about my journey, my experience as a manager, as a restaurant operator, as a trainer. And I, was just looking for opportunity. Weirdly enough, it kind of worked. I became a very visible, I became a visible restaurant operator in my city on LinkedIn, which isn't really hard to do because there's no one trying to dominate any given city on LinkedIn in the restaurant space. Like, it's just not happening. So if you're a restaurant operator, yeah, and 6 years ago. So almost like, it's still now, like, if you're a restaurant operator and you wanted to dominate your city on LinkedIn, like, probably pretty easy to do. But so through doing that, I kind of discovered that LinkedIn was this cool place that you could connect with possible opportunities. It was kind of easy to get organic traction. And then I started getting job offers, and opportunities. And then weirdly enough, I actually I started attracting investors. So because I'd made myself a visible person on LinkedIn, investors who were looking to start franchises came to LinkedIn, were looking for operators, and I became, that person. So I got 2 or 3 different investment offers to start or build a franchise. I took one of them up on it. We launched a Potbelly sandwich shop in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then got him to buy 3 existing ones in Louisville, Kentucky, which took me there. And through that experience of kind of learning the power of LinkedIn, switching over to the ownership side of restaurants, I started a side hustle doing LinkedIn lead generation for other companies. And then that's kind of how I got into that side and got my start there.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And like the power of branding. And yeah, now you're what, like 70,000 followers, sharing so much value. I see. It's just awesome. So really, really crazy to see. So yeah, so then you got into the freelancing space and you went on different sites, and then you went from that to be able to actually create Link and Learn. How did you go from freelancing and taking on a few individuals on the side on weekends and nights to actually moving into starting Link and Learn? What did that look like?
For me, and I think a lot of people, like, they come from different backgrounds, and so the approach that I took, I think, was natural for me, but was different than what a lot of people would do. So I came from restaurants. In fact, I had a full-time job overseeing 4 restaurants at the time. So this side hustle was only ever supposed to be a side hustle. So it was built
Mm,
from day one to be something that didn't require a ton of my time. So I started with kind of an agency approach from the very beginning because I knew that my time had to be very limited. And so I, picked a low price ticket offer. I kind of built something. I had discovered the guys at Cleverly early on
shout out
during my
Cleverly.
yeah, during my time. Like, literally, they put out this. Oh, no, it was Cleverly, and then also BAMF.
Oh yeah,
I don't if you remember them. They put
yeah.
out BAMF put out this guide called like the LinkedIn playbook or the
Or
LinkedIn
the
Bible,
Bible,
and
I think. Yeah.
yeah, and it was like 100 pages of like kind of technical. Like, I mean, if you are not from the marketing world, or even if you are, it was like setting up automation. It was like really kind of thick reading. Like, that was the blueprint for kind of like how the idea for like automating this and making it this kind of this process. And then I stumbled onto the Cleverly guys early on too, and I actually helped on their copywriting team for a little bit while I was building my side hustle. They were already like, a couple miles ahead of me, building a bigger organization. I mean, those guys got huge. And so I was helping on their little copywriting team, kind of learning from their model. They had a very
Yeah.
productized, systemized, like, I mean, it's very impressive what those guys do.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Productized. Yeah. It's crazy.
So I feel like I had good mentors. Like, I had the Banff Bible for automation, which was like light years ahead of its time at that time, and then Cleverly, which was, yeah, a master class on automation and systematization and productization. And so that was kind of the foundation. But I also discovered Upwork at the time,
Hmm.
and I was just trying to at the time I was really just trying to be useful, and I didn't really know like what my offering was. So I was just looking for like LinkedIn related jobs, and the first couple ones were like, help me grow my network and help me, post content. So I would like get content going for them. I used the basics of automation just to grow their network, and then it slowly transformed into this more like lead generation. Like, we don't just want to grow their network; we want to grow it in a targeted way. We don't just want to collect these people in our connections. We want to reach out to them, interact with them. We want to drive them to something, and then it just kind of started building from there.
That's awesome. Now you've covered the inspiration behind productizing it and making it into a low ticket but very scalable offer. And yeah, I just wanted to understand how did you manage to like make a profit on a low tick offer? Because I remember it was what, like $300 to $500, maybe $600 tops, and then taking into account the costs and the executional. What were the margins? How did that work in the early days?
Yeah, the margins were pretty terrible, but my advantage, I think, was that I had a full-time job. This
Yeah,
was a side hustle. This wasn't so I didn't need the profits to like support my living. It was literally
yeah,
like extra money. Like, the first time I snagged a client and got like a $500 payout from them. I mean, I had no cost. I had no tech stack. I had no people. Like, I was doing the stuff. So I was like, and we just found out that we were pregnant at the time. So the first client paycheck I got went to like baby clothes and some stuff for
nice.
like the kid that our kid that wasn't even born yet. So I think that helped. And then I think because I came from the restaurant industry, I'm actually used to working on pretty brutal margins. Like, the restaurant industry
Mm,
is ridiculous, and I worked for and fast casual places. So it was actually like it was kind of a natural, I come into the marketing and the B2B world and I'm thinking, dear God, this stuff is so expensive. Like I could
Yeah.
provide something similar at like a tenth of the price. So to me, I just wanted to get the experience and I wanted to secure clients and I didn't need the money to like
Mm.
support myself. So I intentionally just came out and like undercut anyone that I saw out there. I was just looking to snag jobs on Upwork. I wasn't caring if I made a profit at first. I was looking for the experience. And I
Yeah.
think that laid a foundation because on Upwork, like you can get 10, 15, 20 clients, you can start getting your reviews. Whether you make any money or not, those first 10, 20, 30 reviews is what matters. And then from there, you can raise your prices and start caring more about profit. But I think having a full-time job, being comfortable with like crazy thin margins at first and not caring if I made a profit at first, that really helped me learn. And the low ticket offer helped me work with more brands. Like obviously it was like really crappy clients. They had unrealistic expectations, but I got a master class pretty much in like what the market looked like, what people wanted out of
Mm.
a LinkedIn offering. And I think that was really beneficial. If I came out with a high ticket offer, I would have had two or three clients. I would have thought I knew what people wanted, but it wouldn't have been as educational as, the approach I did take.
100%, I agree. And like, yeah, you turned it into a full product, not a service offering in that respect, like you said. So that was super impressive, and it made it was a no-brainer for someone to want to be able to go for it. Was there a contract that tied into the service, or it was purely just sign up, purchase, and then campaigns rolling?
Yeah, it was month to month retainer, no contract, no long-term commitment. They can drop it at any time. And that was part of my selling point too. Is like,
Yeah,
if it's not working for you, you can drop it. I also like wasn't super confident in my skills. So I'm like, I'm not gonna lock you into a 6-month contract.
yeah,
But that turned out to be really good too, because there was almost like I guess I really lowered the barrier to work with me and the friction. I mean, it was almost a no-brainer
yeah.
for these people.
No, that's awesome. And then, so taking it away from it being yourself, it starts to pick up. How did you go to say 20, or start to be able to think about operationalizing the delivery and bringing individuals to execute? Because if we just take 1 second, you are like the wizard when it comes to Trello. There was a YouTube video which I have downloaded on my laptop that I still watch and put in webinars to this day when I'm talking about how to build client fulfillment processes. Like, it's insane. So yeah, how did you go from it being yourself to getting to that level of system and then scaling it up?
I don't know how I discovered Trello, but I fell in love with that platform. I do think, and I'll continue to give them like a lot of props. Like Cleverly, really, the founders at Cleverly really helped shape my opinion of. Yeah, I think maybe they were using Trello. I can't remember what their tech stack was, but I do remember like I don't think I had a clue about how to set up a fulfillment like product line until I started. Like I had ideas, but they had it like so fleshed out. Like it was like an assembly line, and I was
Mm.
like, it was like someone purchases, it automatically tees up a task for the next person, and then they had like they really put an emphasis on copy. I feel like I'm giving a promotional for them. Like they
But
had,
it is impressive. It's so
yeah,
impressive to see.
they have massive frameworks for copy. So some junior copywriter takes the framework and gets a first draft. Then an intermediate person looks at it, finesses it, and then they have a final step person that was looking at it, making final tweaks and putting a stamp of approval. Like even like that iterative process, and then it gets kicked down to the list building. Then it gets so I learned from that, and I must have discovered Trello around the same time. And Trello was free. I mean, I was all about free tools. And I really liked that Kanban view where it was like, okay, they purchase, then the next step is here, then the next step is here, and then I learned about Zapier early on too, but I learned about that from the BAMF Bible because that was whatever platform they were running on to run the automation. Zapier was the glue that pulled that stuff out and put it into Google Sheets. And so with Trello and with Zapier, those are my two go-to tools for automation, for project management, and for CRM. And yeah, that Trello board, we used it as a fully functioning CRM pretty much up until we had like 180 outreach clients. Like that was our CRM. All the clients lived on there, and it was like onboarding, and then they're launched, and then it's month 1, month 2, and each movement of the card would trigger like emails and notifications and project updates to people. So that was actually really fun to build. There's probably like
Yeah.
100 hours I spent of putting in automation into that board. I was sad to
Yeah.
see it go.
No, that's insane. And yeah, so okay, so you started delivering yourself, and then you then implemented leveraging the learnings
That's
from
true.
Cleverly and Banff to be able to build out this Trello. How did you then, yeah, how did you go up to that, like where,
Yeah.
yeah, you start to sell to, serve 20 plus clients and start to evolve from there?
Yeah, so I did as much as I could on my own. I think I had about 10 or 15 clients that I was just servicing by myself, and then
Hmm.
I kind of realized, okay, well, this is a nice side income. I have two options. I can either raise my prices and just, slowly walk up my prices, keep my client load small and increase my revenue that way. Or the lever that I feel the most comfortable is let's build out a little team. Let's build out some fulfillment. And so at first it was freelancers on Upwork. I would say my first 3 to 5 hires were just freelancers on Upwork, and I pretty much documented my systems, laid it all out, and then they were kind of used to optimize my time. So I kind of stole, yeah, some ideas from Cleverly. I had someone doing first drafts. I had someone building the sales navigator list. I had someone kind of doing reporting, and I would run point of sales, client communication, strategy. But then the fulfillment started to be done by those people. And it was actually contractors all the way up until I made the exit. We didn't actually switch to W-2 and salary and benefits until post exit when we pivoted to Impactable. But I will say one of the things I did along the way was I had really creative compensation plans for my key
Mm.
players. So even though they were contractors, I had, like, for example, my two top people. I had this nice little incentive package where it was like, okay, you make more money for more business that you manage for me. So if you're handling these 50 clients and the team associated with this, then you're going to get, yeah, maybe, you get a price per client that's under your management. And so they were actually incentivized almost like partners, without them being salary or W-2 or having contracts. Like, it was all just contractor work, but I made like really attractive incentive plans for them to help me grow the business and manage that book of business without my oversight. So I,
That's
I think
awesome.
that was a good part. And I didn't have any like frameworks or source to draw from. That was just me kind of being creative. Like, I can't afford full-time people. I mean, I can't make that commitment, but I don't want these people, like, they both had full-time jobs. So I was really trying to ramp them up, and they had six-figure jobs. And so it was
Yeah.
like, it was impossible. It was almost impossible for me to pry them away from their full-time jobs unless I get really creative with the incentive that could provide them the opportunity to eventually make more than they were. And that would probably be a whole different segment, just diving into the
Yeah.
compensation plans.
We can go in so many angles, but no, that's super interesting. And just touching on, like, you didn't go with like international talent from the get go, right? I think or did you start locally, or was it because often people go and hire from across the globe and they'll hire from different countries, but from what I understood, you had some good people as well locally.
I had a mix. So my first hire, who's actually still with me 6 years later, was from Kenya. His name's Joram, and he's kind of a
Okay,
rock star.
awesome.
And then I did have a couple other VAs that were doing like very light things, and it was a cost per client. But then, yeah, I think one of the early things I did that really did make a difference was I hired Jonathan JD Garcia as one of my first US based contractors,
Yeah.
and I gave him, a pretty attractive, it was a price per client kind of thing, price per
Hmm.
client per month. And then he hired, or he got someone else who he had worked with, Joshua, a job with us not too long after. And those two started taking over like the sales calls eventually for me, like maybe 3 or 4 months after they started. And that was a big change, because then that gave me so much time to get back into the business. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
but I
awesome.
think the first 3 or 4 were international, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, I did start hiring pretty heavily locally. And then that was more of the focus, is getting more US based people. At
Yeah.
first, it wasn't until more earlier this year that we actually started switching back to, hey, let's have a service team in the US, and then start moving more of our execution and campaign optimization to a Ukraine based team.
Oh,
But yeah,
nice. We actually have like 70% of our team from the Ukraine and expanding now. So it's really
There are some
awesome.
badass marketers over there.
Yeah,
They're
some
really,
crazy
really
shout
solid.
out. Our CMO, we've got some good people as well. Awesome
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, no, really interesting to be able to see and like how you got the client-facing talent to be, service delivery team, US based, and then you then initially to be able to get the ball rolling, started to outsource just globally before you could bring that in.
Yeah.
So just jumping back to moving to like the next part of your journey. So you've pivoted, you've since been acquired. Now you're the CMO and founder at Impactful, which is LinkedIn ads. But I want to just jump back to 2021, the LinkedIn Exodus. I remember it.
Oof.
That was a
Yeah.
time, you had hundreds of clients on the LinkedIn lead gen service. So how did you handle that? And also, like if we take me back, like, did you foresee that? What happened at that point?
Yes and no. I mean, I didn't. I felt like it was eventually going to come, like the heyday of it was eventually going to end, and I felt a little bit like I was building a castle, like a sand castle on the beach. Like I was building this big structure, but it had kind of a faulty foundation. And I mean, even before they came out with that the biggest restriction was 100 limitation per week for connection requests. Even before that, like it was a constant struggle of finding automation platforms that are safe, finding
Yeah,
ways to consistently scale or keep outreach going, keep it connected, keep client accounts safe. Like clients were getting worried, they would get like the soft bans, and so I knew it was a constant struggle, and I knew it was a possibility that LinkedIn could make an update and destroy our business. Um, so probably around the time that we were at our peak, around that time, probably like 3 to 6 months before that, I started dabbling with paid ads myself.
mm,
I had taught myself Google search. I had started to dabble with LinkedIn ads. I had done it for a handful of clients because as a LinkedIn outreach agency, there's a lot of clients that like, just assumed that we might do LinkedIn ads as well. And so probably like 3 or 6 months before that, I started like doing LinkedIn ads just myself personally for some of our clients, not really charging them much, kind of the same approach, like let's help them out if we can. Let's not, really
yeah,
charge that much. And I had about 15 clients that I was personally managing, but then I also started going through the process of the business sale, and that was I had responded to a Facebook ad that just offered a free valuation, is how it happened, and I wasn't looking to sell. I wasn't really interested in selling, but I was interested in seeing what this thing was worth, and they had a really good funnel. They offer the free valuation, and then they offer to list it and market it for free, and you only pay them if you actually sell the agency, they take a percent. And so I was like,
right,
okay.
nice.
They did the valuation. It was valued at I think at like 750, 800,000 at the time, which to me was way more than I thought that thing was worth. I mean,
Mm,
I didn't realize like that it could be valued at that. And then he was like, yeah, I'll list it. You won't have to pay anything, only if someone buys. I was like, I mean, there's one thing for someone to tell you that your startup's worth like almost 1 million. It's another thing for someone to
yeah,
actually offer that. So I didn't think that that was going to be like, I didn't even tell my wife at that point because I didn't think like it was anything
only
that's
when it's done.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I let them, and then weirdly enough, we started getting interest. And so I thought I was going to keep the LinkedIn ads separate from LinkedIn Learn because
mm,
I thought, okay, let me sell the outreach agency and let me dive into LinkedIn ads. As we were going through due diligence, they actually came out with that huge restriction, 100 connection request limit per week. While we were going through due diligence with a buyer who was aware of that, but he was actually, I mean, he turned out to be a great investor and partner. He wasn't phased. He said, I was looking to pivot away from outreach anyway. I guess we'll just have to do it sooner rather than later. I'm still interested in buying, and I'm not gonna, haggle on the price because he honestly could have been like, "Hey, they
yeah,
just put a dagger in your industry. Your company is worth like 40% less now." And I mean, I would have like he had a really good point. But what he actually wanted was me and the team and kind
the
of like
operation.
what we had built, and he wasn't so concerned with that, which I mean, that's great foresight and be able to have those deep pockets to like take that hit. But yeah, so I actually intended to keep LinkedIn ads separate. While we were going through that, I kind of realized like the company wasn't going to survive unless we pivoted. So I said, oh, screw it. Let's throw that up on the landing page. We now offer LinkedIn ads. I'm going to train my team to take over the 15, 20 clients that I was currently doing, build out the systems. And then after the purchase, we made a really hard pivot into ads. Actually pulled all of the marketing from outreach. We didn't spend a single dollar advertising for the outreach side and spent all of our marketing budget trying to attract people for LinkedIn ads. And so then for like the next year, it was outreach was dying. Like that revenue was just trade off. We didn't make any progress in revenue. It was just like this, trading outreach clients for ad clients until we finally started like turning that corner and actually growing again. And the outreach side had like died back down a little bit.
Okay, awesome. That's crazy, and the light seems to have gone off, but it's all good. We'll just keep going. But yeah, that's insane. At what point did the acquisition actually happen then, between 21 to 22? What was that timeline like?
Yeah, I kind of forget the exact. I think it was like, and the deal finally went through, and we got, I got the initial deposit into my account in June or July of that year. So I felt like it was a few months of back and forth, and the due diligence process was kind of brutal, like getting all that stuff together. And I was a super unorganized first-time founder. Like I hadn't even set up a real business bank account. Like the money was going. I had a Chase account and a Fifth Third account and a PayPal account, and I was like using 2 of those for business and 1 of those for personal, and it was kind of mixed. And but yeah, so I think it was like mid that year that it finally went through, and that was definitely an adventure.
And then you at that point doubled down on LinkedIn ads and were just like so what was the plan? Taper off the clients that were on the LinkedIn lead gen side and then just move everyone under Impactable? Or was it everyone coming into LinkedIn Learn? And then how did that work in terms of actually merging into Impactable and moving those individuals over into this new mission and goal, which is building out Impactable and turning it into the #1 LinkedIn ads agency, which I think it already is, at least in my LinkedIn whenever I look. So
I think part of it that I had actually forgotten is that right after the purchase, we actually got served with a cease and desist letter from LinkedIn, because they said that our name, LinkedIn Learn, infringed on their trademark for LinkedIn Learning, and that because we offered even some kind of LinkedIn service, they weren't happy about it. They actually seized our ad account and sent us a cease and desist letter saying that we needed to change our name. So it was actually at that point. So the investor bought the majority of LinkedIn Learn, and then LinkedIn Learn actually went through a brand change into Impactable almost out of necessity, because we had been served papers from LinkedIn itself about our name. So it kind of worked out in a way that we were forced to rebrand. We were forced to rebrand into Impactable, and then Impactable emerged as a LinkedIn ads agency as our focus. And so all the clients, we now just became Impactable, and then the face of that was a LinkedIn ads agency. So even though we had 180 outreach clients and 20 LinkedIn ads clients, we were now positioning ourselves as a LinkedIn ads agency. So, and then I switched my content more organic. I switched all of our ads, gave it a facelift. We switched the website, and then pretty much, we since we weren't attracting any or very many new outreach clients, the numbers just kept dropping every single month. But we were actually doing a pretty good job attracting new LinkedIn ads clients, and the revenue from those were more. The margins were healthier, so it was a nice and actually it was easier for us. Like the clients were better. They had better, like, more realistic expectations, because the outreach top of funnel game is kind of brutal as far as expectation alignment. And so it was kind of like that we made that pivot, and then for almost a solid year it was just like watching outreach drop and stacking on new ads clients until finally most of our revenue was actually ads, and then now it's like the LinkedIn ads was like 95% of our revenue. Well, now we're diversifying with Google and programmatic, but earlier this year it was like 95% LinkedIn ads and like 5 or 10% outreach.
Awesome. That's awesome to be able to see from 21 to 2022, understand how you had to switch cease and desist from LinkedIn, then go into Impactable, like double down on LinkedIn ads. That's startup mindset at a fine as finest, you know, dropping everything and going, I have to double down and actually dive into this space. Going into a room, people can get like territorial over services and be like, no, we're not changing everything, but like having the balls to be able to just go all in. I know this is the right shift. Is very smart. And obviously now LinkedIn like you because you're enabling them through ad spend. So it's obviously a different side of being on a different side in the relationship with LinkedIn as well, which is interesting. And I just want to understand a little bit about the offering, because obviously a lot of our listeners are going to have come from probably the email scaled services or the lead gen LinkedIn side, but not a lot of them have looked at LinkedIn ads, which is very interesting. So just talk me through, like, how does the service offering look? What's it typically look like when working with a client?
Yeah, I guess the dynamic is a lot different. So when we had the outreach agency, it was mostly smaller companies. I would say size, 2 to 10, 10 to 50. Like it was the smaller organizations, and they were looking for like top of funnel. They were looking for lead gen, and the classic lead gen is I want you to find people that look like my CP that have never heard of me, reach out to them cold, and help us get meetings, which is kind of brutal. The ads game is a little different because typically we started as soon as we made the pivot. One thing we noticed was that the size of the companies we started attracting just naturally that were gravitating towards that offer versus the outreach offer were a little more mature, a little bigger, and they had a little more reasonable expectations. Now, obviously not perfect, but we noticed a shift, and we liked that, and then we embraced it. So part of it is the LinkedIn ads offering is, and typically when people come to us, they have other marketing in place. Like they're already doing paid search, they've done some SEO, they maybe have organic, and then they're coming for LinkedIn ads, which that's also a big shift because with the lead gen game, I feel like, it was a lot of immature marketing ecosystems and they were wanting outreach to do a lot of work. Whereas LinkedIn ads, they have search, and if you see my content, like I'm a big fan of LinkedIn retargeting. So then that puts us middle and bottom of the funnel. Paid search, organic, SEO is bringing you, website traffic. We're using LinkedIn to clean and qualify that website traffic. Because to me, the biggest superpower of LinkedIn ads is that not that like people love it for its targeting, but all of those filters, like you can target people by company size, seniority, exact job title, industry, even like, they are interested in topics like B2B retargeting or email marketing or outreach or dark social. And then all those filters you can actually use not just in cold, but in retargeting. And it doesn't matter where they came from. So if they visit your website through Google search, SEO, organic, email, outreach, LinkedIn Insight Tag can see all that website traffic, can layer on those qualifying filters, and just help you retarget and convert your best fit prospects. So
Awesome.
we really leaned into that approach as part of the offering, and because it was middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel and less focus on top of the funnel, we had pretty good results for clients. We were helping them kind of improve the ROI of their whole marketing ecosystem. And then, it took a lot of the pressure off of us because, Google search needs to get you, more qualified top of funnel clicks so that we can convert it. And, and so I think that positioning was way better. But we positioned it. Initially, we did still productize it. We positioned it. And when we rolled out LinkedIn ads, we were offering management of ad spend under $3,000 a month. We were offering management for $350 a month, which we were not making money on that. But we wanted to kind of scale the volume, and we got like 50 clients on that offer. And then we walked up the price like every couple of months until we were actually getting margins on that. And I guess I probably would have walked that up faster if I wasn't like investor backed and it was just my bank account still. But I did feel like after the acquisition, I did have a little cushion where I could maybe take my time a little bit more, maybe, lay the foundation and not. I feel like if it was just my bank account, I would have. It was still a pretty extreme shift, but I probably would have been even maybe a little more reckless with some of it. So it's kind of fortunate that I was able to sidestep that risk at that point.
No, that's great. And so in terms of like, the engagement now, it's bottom of funnel and a big emphasis on retargeting. So essentially enabling these businesses to be able to drive their traffic in and then enable them to reach out via LinkedIn through a series of ads and managing that ad spend. Like what does the structure look like in terms of the pricing now and like how you kind of bill and charge?
We still have an introduction offer, which I feel like I'm never going to get away from that, because one of my frustrations and the whole reason I feel like I had to learn marketing myself is because like getting someone to manage your ad spend competently like is just, I mean, I have the same thoughts I had like back in Lincoln Learn. Like it's a lot of overpriced and it's a lot of like people set it and forget it. So we do have an introductory offer still. If you're spending $3,000 or less on LinkedIn, we have an offer to manage it for $649 a month. And that does include, you know, some very basic copy and creative. The clients that come into the offer and have their own, they can get a discount. But we do have the entry level starting, and then basically the way we structure it is we have kept some of the productized elements where it's like, okay, so for this package, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come in, you're going to fill out this intake form, you're going to tell us who you want to target, what assets you have, what trust and credibility. We have kind of a framework of like what messaging works in the cold layer, in the retargeting layer, and based on what the client has. So after we get the intake form, we assign kind of a strategist and account manager, and we assign it to a copywriter and designer to get we have kind of a framework of the type of ads. So in the cold layer, for example, I think my opinion is that that's a good place to be kind of more straightforward or promotional. Like, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is the main problem we solve, these are the main results our clients get. Very straightforward and more promotional. And then in retargeting, it's about, this is why you can trust us, these are the results other people are getting, these are nice things that other people are saying about us, this is, you know, why we're the experts, or the focusing on the results and the trust and credibility. So we do kind of have it kind of frameworked and templated, the different types of content that works in different areas. And we provide copywriting, image creation, and then our team, once the client approves it, we will get that set up in your account. We have a nice checklist of like what should be in the LinkedIn ad account, the settings, because that usually gets screwed up by a lot of companies. And then it goes into kind of a creating new ads every month, launching the next segment. And one of the best things I did, I think, was we came out with this 6-month roadmap, which was like, if you were going to deploy ads on LinkedIn and if you had 6 months to build, here's kind of the roadmap I would choose. Here's month 1, you know, get it together and launch cold. Month 2, get your first retargeting campaign going. That's single image. Next is text, and then spotlight, and then maybe a lead gen form. So I created the 6-month roadmap, and probably the best thing that did was it gave our team kind of a roadmap to follow and a template of strategy to steer clients into. And it gave clients more of a long-term mindset, because it's like, I can't just run LinkedIn ads for 30 days and be like, oh, I didn't get results. Well, we have this whole 6-month roadmap. We have this framework we want to build out in your account as like a tangible asset, that even if we don't get the results you want, this is a tangible asset that you could reload with, you know, different, better ads, tweak the targeting, and fire back up and, you know, still get something out of it. So it gave them kind of this longer term mindset where it's like, okay, we're not getting the results we want in month 1 or 2 or 3, but we're making progress and we see where this is going. So I think that was one of the best things that we did. And it kind of a way of, it's a service, but we also kind of template and productize a little bit to where we're steering a lot of the people into.
That's awesome. So essentially, so with each client now, you've established a 6-month timeline, and that enables them to be able to understand each month what's going on, even though they're not signed into anything. But it's like, hey, we're starting on month 1. This is what it's going to look like. The idea is to move forwards with and refine, and then you'll be able to start to revise, and then on the retargeting, understand and optimize the audience, and then the copy, and then see what converts best. And in terms of conversion, is it signups? Is it MQLs? What's the end goal? Because obviously calls booked is meetings requested or whatever for LinkedIn lead gen. So yeah, what is that end output for a business that you're providing ads to?
Yeah, and it kind of varies for each client, because weirdly enough, like, so when I got a lot of my inspiration as a marketer from the B2C world, from ecom, and like if you have a B2C site, like you wouldn't even think about running ads unless you could track like the different checkpoints of conversion. So they come on your page, you have maybe some intent pages, like you have pricing on its own page, you have book a demo on its own page. They if they book a demo, it pushes them to a booked call confirmed page or the lead form submission page. And then purchases, like every good ecom website, like when you purchase, there's a purchase confirmed page. Like, and I see why they set that up. Those are checkpoints that you can easily set up as conversions in any ad account. Now, for some reason, the B2B world like does not adopt this for some reason. There's like, so I would say out of almost all of our clients, I would say less than 10% of clients are tracking like booked meetings as conversions in the ad platform. They see that data in HubSpot or Salesforce, but it doesn't always get passed back to LinkedIn ads. So a lot of times they're tracking leads as form submissions,
Yep.
leads as form submissions on their website or intent clicks, and then we're having to kind of either import the data from their CRM. But so I guess the metrics change there, but ideally it would be form submissions from their website, booked meetings, and then virtually no one in the B2B world can track actual purchases in
Yeah.
their ad platforms.
Or
We did
checkout.
because I set ours up. Anyone who purchases from us gets pushed to a purchase confirmed page, and we've had that set up almost since day one. But it's almost unheard of in the B2B world that you're able to track that in actual ad channels.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and it's cool to be able to see that there are parallels to both worlds from like the lead gen space, but then also looking at the ad space and like how that's evolved. It's crazy, really cool. Because it's not just generating meeting and requests, and there's more method to the madness. And speaking about methods, has the process changed when it comes to actually then obviously delivering in terms of like check-ins? Do you send Loom videos to be able to update on campaigns, or are you now going into a more bespoke play where you're doing calls with clients to review campaigns? Or is it still very streamlined and you're sharing videos to be able to explain strategy? Like, what does that look like in terms of giving that information to clients?
Yeah, when we moved from the outreach agency to ads, the outreach agency was almost fully automated, very assembly like, very impersonal. And when we switched to the ad side, one thing we did want to do was lose some of that. As much as I love automation, I wanted the ad service. I wanted us to pivot and do something more personal. So we were doing weekly Loom videos where the account manager every single week would look at the ad account, would, kind of on the Loom, tell them what we're looking at, what we're keeping an eye on, what optimizations we're making. And it was a very high touch, personal feel. What I think in 2024, we might start to move away from that a little bit,
Yeah.
because now the service team who would be recording those videos is a little disconnected from the optimizations that are happening from our optimization team. But it's more of, and we're also moving multi-channel. So it makes it a little harder for those Loom videos to be, I guess they would move more to maybe project management versus like a Loom video that outlines optimizations and insights from each channel, like on a weekly basis. But we did move to a more personal touch. Like most of the reporting wasn't automated. None of the delivery was automated. It was real people that we trained kind of setting up the account, giving the insights, giving the reporting. And then we had a monthly strategy call. So we'd
Okay.
have like maybe an onboarding call, weekly Loom videos, and then a monthly strategy call. So actually that is what it is right now. I would say for the lower tiers, like that entry level offer, the tier one, we are looking to probably move away from those weekly Loom videos, as it's kind of a pretty big operational lift
Yeah.
for that offering. But for the higher tiers, we definitely want to keep that personal touch.
And then what does the team structure look like now in terms of like how many clients can an individual manage, and like what elements? Obviously you said designers, ads, audience builders. Yeah, what does that look like in the
Yeah,
roles?
from the agency perspective, it kind of depends on different tiers. So for example, the tier one offer, because we kind of do package that with a more limited, maybe weekly and monthly routine to kind of make that price, one of our service team members could maybe manage 25 or 30 of those accounts as the point of contact. Now, as the ad spend goes up and as the tier goes up, maybe tier five, tier sixes for us, a service team or the campaign specialist, like it might just be five of those clients is like a full-time job for one of our campaign specialists. But I do think so that separation that we just had, like earlier this year, or at the very beginning of this year, our account managers were doing all of the work. They were doing the onboarding call. They were helping coordinate with the copywriting and the image, setting up the campaigns, and then doing the reporting and handling the strategy call. Now, in the last 6 months, we've really pivoted into the service team, handling the client communication, handling the reporting, but a campaign specialist in Ukraine helping with campaign setup, list loading, reporting, and surfacing those insights to the account manager. So in that scenario, one service team member on our side still maybe could have 30 accounts, but then they might have a whole team of campaign specialists helping, because five tier sixes might get its own campaign specialist,
Yeah.
and then another campaign specialist might be able to handle 15 tier ones, and then another campaign specialist might have 5 tier 4 or 10 tier 4s. And so that one service team member on our side that's managing 30 relationships has maybe 4 or 5 campaign specialists working behind the scenes, helping kind of amplify their time. So that's kind of what it looks like right now.
That's awesome. So basically, there's almost a pattern in what you're saying from Link and Learn to Impactable, in terms of like even back in the day with Upwork, how you initially started with yourself, then you started to separate what you could take off your own shoulders. And like you said, you started with, say, managing 15 LinkedIn ads clients. And then that evolved. You needed to then showcase to the team. And then they started off all managing in that. And then following that, you then start to see what could be taken out of their hands to be able to scale this further. So there is a framework in that I hope our listeners can dissect to be able to understand how to scale out. And then in terms of the systems today, what are you using to be able to manage the client fulfillment process and that, as it stands?
Yeah, and I would say to that point, I wish I could take credit for like this current org shift. This
Yeah.
was heavily influenced by our investor. So the guy, his name's Bill, our main investor and primary owner now. He actually founded SoftServe, a company that has like 13,000 employees based in Ukraine, and then he actually founded a series of other data companies. And so one of the best things, and this is, we could have a whole episode on mergers and acquisitions, but one
Yeah.
of the best things I got out of this deal wasn't the paycheck, wasn't like that I still have a nice cushy job at the other side. It's the fact that I didn't just get money from him. He has been like an actual advisor, mentor, kind of, and yeah. So I mean, he looks at this in a different way. Like as a first time founder, I'm making up the rules as I go. I'm making mistakes, but he's able to say, okay, I built a dozen of these companies. Where you're at right now, it's probably time to start looking at an org shift. And this is what we did at this company. This is what we did at this company. And so to me, it's also weird, like as a founder, like even if someone tells you like where you need to be a year from now or 2 years from now, like it's still up to you to figure out the steps, like how you get from here to there. Cause he's not going to understand. He knows where we have to end up, but he doesn't, he's out of the mix to the point where he doesn't know like what steps 2, 3, and 4 are. He just knows we need to get to 5. And so that's been a really good dynamic. But so we started shifting into this, and then the next thing we're kind of getting into is because we're investor backed now, he has kind of like a funded startup having aggressive growth goals to the point where we're looking at an acquisition strategy to pick up maybe an outreach agency here or a small content agency here to help fuel our growth. But so those two are probably
So perspective,
yeah.
having that external perspective to be able to essentially, enable you to be able to go, hang on a second, actually, this is the time to be able to now take some of this off and move that forwards. And then, it's crazy because this is the world which I don't see. I've not been exposed to that degree, of course. Where you're saying like, okay, you're now at the point where you're at a sufficient point and you can look at actually acquiring businesses around you to build a kind of group to be able to make it more powerful. And that's a really awesome mark to be able to get to. And I think this ties nicely just into just talking a little bit about just, I guess, the future, just briefly touching on just, where are you moving forwards to? I understand you, like you said, you're now backed, you're a funded startup in essence, you are, and you're really building out the real teams and all from crazy roots with no marketing experience, I must say, which is incredible, that's awesome, all self-taught. Are you going to build out tooling or are you going to build out other channels? What's the play and how are you moving forwards?
So there's probably 3 things that we're focusing on moving forward. One of them is this idea of centers of excellence, which again was new to me. The investor brought this idea, and it's pretty much okay. So you have a central service team, probably US based, that manages client communication, the strategy. But then there's these different centers of excellence, these little pillars underneath that fulfill very specific things. So we have the LinkedIn campaign specialists, centers of excellence, and then as we're growing multi-channel, we have Google paid search and meta. We have programmatic. We have outreach. So now thinking of it in that way, where we have the service team here and it's supported by these different COEs. In the last 6 months, we've appointed COE leaders. So now,
When
there's
you say
someone
COE, what do you mean by COE?
a center of excellence.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. There you go. Yeah. Center of excellence. Yes.
Center of excellence. So the center of excellence leader. So we have a center of excellence leader for LinkedIn, and he's in charge of the LinkedIn ad specialists, and they're kind of perfecting and improving that. So I think this is one of the biggest evolutions in our agency, where for the first couple of years, it was just me trying stuff, testing stuff, building stuff. Like I think of the idea of builders in an agency, and for most agencies early on, there's one builder, the founder, and then they hire people to amplify their time. Now, when I hired Jonathan and then I hired Josh, early on, I got some mini builders. They weren't founders, but they were building different things and systems and fleshing out processes in their own way. Now, in the last 6 months, this development of the centers of excellence and the COE leaders, we now have more builders in the company than we've ever had before, which means we can grow faster in different ways. The Emily, who's in charge of the Google search and is growing the meta, like she's acting as all the COE leaders. They're acting as kind of mini entrepreneurs. They're incentivized to grow their segment. So now I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is that I've now amplified myself. So I've moved myself now to kind of the leader of the centers of excellence, and I'm working with these different individuals to grow their segments that help power our business. So that probably in 2024, that's going to be, we're just early on in there. Like, I think for Google and Meta, we're at like 14K monthly revenue. Programmatic's at like 6K, content's at like 8 or 10K. So they're all like little baby segments that are gonna really grow in 2024. Yeah. So like, I mean, if I was just thinking of like, okay, how are we gonna get to 10 million ARR on LinkedIn alone? Like, that's a really big lift, and we'd have to hit some walls, have to hit some plateaus. But if I think, okay, can I get Google search from 100K a year to 1 million a year? That's actually pretty doable. Like, in 18 months, I think I could do that. And if I do that with each of the channels, like, that's pretty massive growth. So that's probably number one.
That's awesome. That's honestly so cool. Centers of excellence. I love it. It's just fantastic. Yeah. And you're right. And then you can also think about the acquisition play as well, to be able to accelerate a particular center of excellence. And yeah, you really have found some fantastic team. But you said that was number one.
That was number one. The other two will be shorter. The other one, where you mentioned it, saying like, I built this pretty much, and I didn't come from a marketing background. So one of the things I realize now, and it's always been true, but I think it's now true more than ever, is that one of the things we have to do in order to maintain this business, in order to grow it and scale it, is we have to increase our internal education. I personally have to continue to sharpen, my blade of being a marketer. I need to take myself to the next level. I need the leaders in my company to become better marketers. I need our service team to become better marketers. We need a process and culture of continued education, so that we are this group of elite badass marketers that aren't stagnant but are growing. Because otherwise, actually, the brand of Impactable is growing at such a rate that if we don't grow internally, like, it will get away from us. We will start attracting bigger clients than we are capable of servicing properly, which could hurt our brand. So this is actually a new developing problem that we really want to stay in front of. We really want to solve for that. And then the third one is the other thing the investor brought to the table that I would not have done, because it's not my background, is the SaaS side and the data side. So because he had built software before, because he had been familiar with growing a
data
team of
company,
developers,
right? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was SoftServe, and then I think he was part of Veridata, AccuData.
Yeah.
There's and Who's Mailing What is a direct mail intelligence company. So he's actually had outside of Impactable, he has his own research and development team based in Ukraine that's basically been working on a SaaS product that he's let Impactable use. Eventually, Impactable will acquire that tool and bring it under umbrella, but he's been doing that outside of us for now. And that's our DGP tool. We now have a LinkedIn ad scheduling tool, a LinkedIn audience insight tool. It's interactive with LinkedIn ads. So you could see, hey, these are the people that are interacting with my ads, the people of the company. And then from our tool, you could exclude them, and it could push them to an exclusion list in the ads, basically tuning and curating your audience from our tool. Website visitor identification is something we rolled out. So that SaaS tool, I think, in the next year, you're going to see Impactable pivot from a agency to a tech-enabled agency. And then in 2025, it would not shock me, or 2026, if we eventually become a tech agency that happens to offer services. And I just learned this. I did not really realize this. Like, when you're looking to sell a business, service agencies are actually priced the multiple of what a service agency sells for versus what a tech-enabled service agency versus what a SaaS company sells for are different, making the same amount of revenue and the same amount of profit.
The industry and how volatile it is, right? It's crazy, really crazy.
So those are the three things that we're really pushing for in the next couple of years, and what would probably be the evolution for us, at least from what I can see.
Honestly, like that's really cool, because the goals now, they really make sense, and they align with having been funded, that you're able to execute on those things. So I think it's really cool to show these listeners who are at the earlier stages the evolution from starting as a freelancer to being acquired, to be able to build out pillars, to actually probably in 2025 moving into SaaS, and ultimately who knows, being acquired later down that line, if that's the goal. Maybe it's not, go public. Justin Rowe, thank you so much for coming on the show. Honestly, it's been a pleasure and a very insightful conversation. You've shared a lot of gold today.
We had some tech difficulties, but I'm happy to say that the rest of the session went really well.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing.